2. Today's show is brought to you by LootCrate.com. Save 10% on any new subscription by going to trylootcrate.com/armchair. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 to save 10%. Again, that's trylootcrate.com/armchair. Enter promo code BRIDGE10. What is going on, guys? All right, welcome to week 11. It's hard to believe that my last podcast came out in week 6. It's been 5 long weeks before we put a podcast out, but we are back. Of course, you're listening to the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. You can follow the show on Twitter as well at Talk Loud Podcast. All right, guys, we're not going to waste no long time on an intro here. We're going to just jump right into everything. We got on the phone tonight. We have Gerson and Tim, of course, both from the DFS Roundtable. We're talking NFL Week 11. I know it's been a while since we've done this. I'm a little out of practice, but I spent the last 5 weeks trying to redesign the site. If you haven't been to the site in a while, check it out. It's all new designed. It looks nice. But without further ado, let's go ahead and intro our guests here. Of course, we've got Mr. GPP himself. We have Gerson on the phone, who had a very big win since the last time we spoke to him. So we'll talk a little bit about that with him. And of course, we have Tim, Mr. DraftKings. You know, he plays DraftKings because unfortunately he lives in Texas and he can't play FanDuel. But guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, Jeff. Ready to roll.
Good deal.
I'm doing good, man. Like, I can't complain.
All right, Gerson, I know you wanted to talk about a couple weeks ago. I know, you want to come on the show when it happened, but you had a pretty big GPP victory a while back. Why don't you tell us about it a little bit?
Yeah, it was the opening night of NBA. I just won. I won like first place, but I tied with like 2 other people, I think. And I took down first place and won $44,000, which is very nice because it opens me to a lot. It allows me to help out a lot more people and kind of just focus on that. Like, because you guys know I have a page, the DFS Roundtable, and it allows me to help them out, daily. And just gives me a little bit more financial freedom and, just play NFL at a higher volume. And I love the NFL, man. So playing that at a higher volume is it's a lot of fun.
Good deal. And you use some of that money to fly out to the East Coast and go to a Patriots game, right?
Yeah, I went down to. Of course, I always say when you work hard for something, you got to reward yourself. So me and my brother's a big Tom Brady fanatic guy, and like kind of weird because we're Raiders fans. People kind of give us crap for it, but. Hey, I'm an NFL fan. I mean, I just, like, before that trip, I went to, because I was winning pretty good in football, too. And I went down to visit Tim, the guy on our podcast with us right now. And we watched the Cowboys game versus Green Bay. And that was a lot of fun. But then the Boston game was the Patriots game was a lot of fun because my brother and, you spend a vacation with him. Usually when you get older, you don't do a lot of things like, that you want to do that, like you have a wife or whatnot, you have kids, kind of have a more responsibility. But we went out there, watched Boston versus Patriots. We toured the whole stadium. Well, not the stadium, the Hall of Fame that they have. We saw the Super Bowl trophies. Oh, that was awesome. And yeah, the game was pretty fun. The people are the great people, and I can't speak how great the city of Boston is. It's like, It's a very beautiful city, but I don't think I can live there because they don't know how to drive. So I don't want to die.
All right, good deal, good deal. All right, guys. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump into the slate. Of course, we're looking at Week 11. I'm gonna be completely frank with y'all. I haven't looked much at the slate yet. I've been sort of locked into NBA. So I'm gonna leave it up to you two to be the experts here. Of course, FanDuel, Gerson, you can cover most of FanDuel. Tim, you'll be on DraftKings, and we'll just go through these top plays here, position by position. Y'all ready to do it?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start off at the top here with the quarterback position, probably the most important position in football. We've got at the top here, we got the aforementioned Tom Brady that we just talked about. Of course, we got Carson Wentz in Dallas. We got Dak Prescott over 8,000. Kirk Cousins is over 8,000. Drew Brees. These top quarterbacks here, Gerson on FanDuel. Are you paying up for any of these guys in your tournaments?
Yeah, I'm going to be paying up for Tom Brady, man. Tom Brady is amazing. He's 7,400 on DraftKings, 8,600 on FanDuel. The Patriots implied total has increased already from 27.75 to about 30.25 now. And there's only 4 defenses that have allowed more yards and fantasy points per pass attempt than the Raiders. And, I mean, the Raiders defense suck, and this hurts me because I'm a Raiders fan, but, geez, I watch them every Sunday, and I'm telling you guys, me and Jeff and Tim could go out there and probably score, like, at least a touchdown on them. But, damn, dude, they just suck so bad. But, yeah, they're ranked 30th overall in DVOA. So I want all the Tom Brady I can for the high tier quarterback price. And I think we already talked about it before the podcast. And, of course, we communicate during the week during our chat. But it's not that hard to fit him either. And we'll talk about the play later on.
Good deal. Yeah, I kind of like how you spit out all these stats, all these high level stats, and then you stop and go, the defense just sucks. He just made it very simple. That's pretty awesome. All right.
Sometimes it's that easy, man.
Yeah, sometimes it is that easy. They just suck. Let's just put it that way. Forget all the stats. They just suck. All right, Tim, over on DraftKings, you got a few different top level quarterbacks here. Of course, Tom Brady is the top. And you got Drew Brees, Alex Smith. Looks like Matthew Stafford's up there. Am I missing? Where's Carson Wentz on here? Am I in the wrong slate? No, I'm on the 11-game slate.
He's not on the main slate.
Oh, that's right, because they're playing. That's right. I forgot DraftKings does it a little bit different. All right, so
DraftKings doesn't have the Sunday night games, so Carson Wentz isn't on the slate. If you do play the Sunday and Monday, or if you already have some lineups locked into Thursday slate, I do think that there is some interest in that Philly Dallas game. But most of my plays are obviously for the DraftKings main slate. We're always trying to win that $1 million, so that's what it comes down to.
Good deal. Now, I see Alex Smith kind of snuck up here into these top-level quarterbacks here. He's the third highest-priced quarterback on the slate. You got any interest in Alex Smith over on DraftKings?
Absolutely. I think, like Gerson said, talking about Oakland, it's always important to find the path of least resistance. And other than the Oakland Raiders at 8,000 feet in Mexico City, the other path of least resistance in the NFL right now is the New York Giants. They're just bleeding points to every fantasy position. You can stack Alex Smith all kinds of ways. We'll get to that later. Yeah, absolutely. It's him and Brady at the top for me by far.
All right. Yeah, I think the Giants, of course, the pinnacle of their bad season was when they lost to my team last week. We got our first victory, of course, the 49ers.
You did.
Anytime that my team can put up points and my quarterback can put up points on your defense, probably not a good thing. So, yeah, I like Alex Smith as well.
Yeah, keep Jimmy G on the bench. That's what is the truth.
All right, let's move into the second level of quarterbacks here, the guys that are under 8K. We've got Jared Goff with a tough matchup at Minnesota. Looks like on FanDuel, Alex Smith actually falls into the second tier. So maybe he's a good play there. Tyrod Taylor, of course, is now benched, so we can just ignore him. We've got Blake Bortles is on here. Phillip Rivers is supposed to play. He got concussion, but I believe he's supposed to play. And then we kind of get down into the Case Keenums and the Carson Palmers of the world. Are any of these mid-tier guys interesting to you, Gerson?
All right, I'm gonna be honest with you, Jeff. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kind of pivoted to DraftKings in over the weeks since like a couple of weeks ago. But I do play on FanDuel. But to be honest, the mid-tier guy that we would target would be Alex Smith. So, I mean, other than him at mid-tier, I mean, I really feel comfortable. I mean, it's just I would say Kirk Cousins, but he's 8,200. I don't really consider that mid-tier. But Kirk Cousins, but no. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say Case Keenum.
Case Keenum.
A lot of people don't. Yes, Case Keenum. A lot of people aren't on Case Keenum, but the thing, if you look at who the Rams have played in the last, I don't know, 5-4 weeks or whatever, they haven't really played an elite quarterback. And I wouldn't say Case Keenum's an elite quarterback, but they have some weapons like Diggs, they have Thielen, they have McKinnon and Rudolph, and they're at home, I believe, right? If I'm correct. They're at home, right?
They are.
Okay, they are at home. So I like Case Keenum this week. I mean, at 7,500 against the Rams. The Rams score a lot of points, and they're ranked second in DPOA. But I believe this is due to the schedule. It's been really, really, really weak. And right now, I think you can be really contrarian with Keenum and have him at a low ownership. And we saw his potential. This guy can get touchdowns, you know. I mean, he did it last week versus Washington. He got 4 touchdowns. He got 2 interceptions, but 304 yards. And then he did it against Tampa Bay. Regardless, Tampa Bay sucks. But I mean, when he's at home, I think he gets a better advantage. And that's just my contrarian play for mid-tier.
Good deal. Yeah, just going back on who the Rams played over the last few weeks. They played, of course, the Houston Texans with Tom Savage at QB. They played the Giants with Eli Manning at QB. They played Arizona. I think Arizona still had Carson Palmer, but of course that's not really a team lighting up the scoreboard. And then before that, they had Blake Bortles. So over the last 4 weeks, they haven't really played any top-tier quarterbacks. The last quarterback they played that was probably any decent was Russell Wilson. Way back on October 8th. So yeah, the Rams haven't really seen anybody lately. So that stat that they're good against quarterbacks is a little bit misleading. What about over on DraftKings, Tim? Are any of these mid-tier guys interesting to you?
Yeah, I think Gerson, actually, I think that Case Keenum makes a good kind of value play on DraftKings, and we'll get to that in a minute. But in the mid-tier, the 2 guys I really like, one of them you mentioned, Phillip Rivers. He was in the concussion protocol, but he is cleared to play. I expect he's going to do well in a game at Buffalo at home. They're starting Peterman, so he should be have a good shot to win that game, even with the problems that they have. And then the other guy is Kirk Cousins. Obviously, the New Orleans pass defense is much improved this year, but the New Orleans is going to score a lot of points. He's going to have a good amount of time to get the ball. His weapons aren't the best, but I do think that he's going to be able to move the ball on that team. I think we're going to see a lot of, Chris Thompson, who I'm sure we'll get to later, a couple other guys. So I think that there is some potential for Kirk Cousins to score, through the air. So I think if I was going to play a mid-tier guy, it would either be Rivers or Cousins.
All right, good deal. Yeah, living in Washington, D.C., I just heard today that I think they're going to be without Terrell Pryor and Jordan Reed have both been ruled out already. They actually signed, I think, Brian Quick off the practice squad, so he'll be possibly in the lineup this week. And then that guy that caught that crazy good pass last week, Harris, I can't even think of his first name. I think he'll be in the lineup as well this week. So
the one nobody knew.
Yeah, the one nobody knew. We're all like, "Who is that? Who is that? Who is that?" And I was like, "Harris. Who the hell's that? He made an amazing catch."
Yeah, if you're going to be a one-hit wonder, that's a great one to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move down into this really low tier here and see if there's any kind of gems in here. I'm not really seeing a whole lot. Of course, you got Jay Cutler down here. Eli Manning, Fitzpatrick has been a popular play over the last 2 weeks, but he hasn't really been doing much. Trubisky, Hundley, and then we get down to Brock Osweiler. Is anybody in this low tier any good on FanDuel, Gerson?
Dude, I love how you didn't even mention any of the guys that I had at low tier. So, I don't know if you guys are drinking anything right now, but I advise you not to drink it because you're probably going to spit it out. Jay Cutler versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ugh.
Now, while people hate Jay Cutler, I don't hate the weapons he has. And he has done very well against defense that aren't good. I mean, look what he did against the Raiders. I think last week he got, 2 touchdowns still? I'm correct?
Yep, I believe so.
He got 2 touchdowns. I mean, Jay Cutler, with those weapons that he has there, and they're running the ball and more efficient. I mean, at 6,600, I like his price against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we know is one of the worst defense in the league versus the pass. I believe they're ranked. Hold on, I got it right here on my spreadsheet. Jay Cutler versus the Tampa Bay, they're ranked 31st overall DVOA versus.
Okay.
Or 30. Oh, I have 31st, but maybe I'm wrong. But they're just horrible overall. So I like Jay Cutler, and then my second guy is Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert. Now, everybody's like, "Oh man, Blaine Gabbert, yeah." But if I like him because hold on, I have the stack right here. My bad. What's his name? Bruce Arians, their head coach. They said, "Hey, why has Blaine Gabbert been on so many teams and whatnot? Do you think he's a good quarterback or something like that?" And he said, "Well, he's been on a lot of shitty teams, so the Jaguars, 49ers, etc. But I think with Fitzgerald and him, they're gonna work Okay, if you want to target Houston, you got to target them through the passing game because you're not going to beat them by the running game. And their secondary has allowed a massive yard. I mean, they allowed 355 yards to Jared Goff, 308 yards to Jacoby Brissett, 452 yards to Russell Wilson. Now, of course, Russell Wilson is a way better quarterback than all these guys, but he has some scrambling ability too. I mean, he has 358 rushing yards on 72 carries. That's almost 5 carries per. That's almost 5 yards per carry. So for a quarterback, I like that. And he's like basically, I think he's 4,900 on DraftKings and minimal price on FanDuel at 6,000.
Yep, he is definitely.
I don't think he's a bad player.
I really hope you're right on this call because unfortunately I have Blaine Gabbert starting in my Dynasty League this week because I just had some terrible luck with my quarterbacks. I keep killing them. It's just so I'm gonna go through the history of my quarterbacks in my Dynasty League. So last year when we first drafted our Dynasty League, I drafted Blake Bortles. Of course, coming off that huge season from the year before. Of course, he has a terrible season last year. So about mid-season, maybe like 3/4 through the way, I traded to get Derek Carr, who promptly broke his leg. So I had to get another quarterback to fill in for the rest of my year. Over the offseason, I trade away Derek Carr, and I end up getting in a couple of different players. But I end up with Jameis Winston, who has now been terrible this year. Now he is hurt. So I pick up off the
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and
those are your calls for the last 2 years at quarterback.
God, I know.
You trade for them. The Jeff Jinx.
I'm just gonna stop picking quarterbacks, but wait, it gets better because then off the waiver wire after Winston goes down, I pick up Tyrod Taylor. Well, guess what? Tyrod Taylor just got benched. So
you never had a chance.
Oh my God! So the only quarterback I have left to even play right now is Blaine Gabbert. So I hope you're right, Gerson. I hope that your good luck will kind of counteract my quarterback jinx because apparently I just can't pick quarterbacks.
I hope so too, bud.
All right, let's go over to DraftKings here, Tim. Is there anybody down here that we haven't already mentioned that you want to talk about?
Yeah, a little bit. Gerson kind of stole my thunder a little bit because as much as I hate him as an individual, hate's a strong word, as much as I dislike him as an individual, I think that Miami-Tampa Bay has sneaky shootout potential this week. I think that there's probably going to be a lot more fantasy goodness in that game than most people think. As Gerson mentioned, they're like 28th and 31st DVOA in the league. Both defenses are just, they're just terrible. There's no way around it. Terrible. So I think that, both quarterbacks are not great, but I think that they're going to be able to move the ball because the other team has no defense. So everybody was on Fitzpatrick last week with no Mike Evans against, in my opinion, a better defense. So I think this week with Evans back, Fitzpatrick makes a much better play. I'm probably not going to pay down much, but I probably will have a few Fitzpatrick stacks in my GPP allocation.
Good deal. Yeah, I think my one of my riders, I think I can't remember if he's FanDuel or if he's on DraftKings, but one of my riders is all about Fitzpatrick this week. I'm not sure if I can buy it, but I can definitely see where the appeal might be, because he's so cheap. So yeah, definitely a decent call there. All right, let's move on to the running back position. The first thing I see when I click over to running back position is Leonard Fournette, of course, is questionable now with an ankle injury. So who knows if he plays or not. We got Todd Gurley, we got Kareem Hunt, Mark Ingram, who's been really good of late, LaShawn McCoy. Of these top running backs, Gerson, which one are you paying up for this week?
I think I'm going to pay up for Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is a top running back. I think he's the highest priced running back, right? Todd Gurley is at $8,700 by $100 more. Oh, good deal. But Kareem Hunt facing the New York Giants, he's $8,600 on FanDuel, $8,000 on DraftKings. Kansas City's favored by 10.5, and only 4 teams have allowed more rushing yards to opposing backs this year than the New York Giants. So while we all know how bad the Giants' pass defense is, they also suck for the run defense, apparently. Apparently the Giants they just suck. Very bad. When Matt Breida and Carlos Hyde combined for 150 yards, I think you might have a problem with your defense. And Kansas City's offense is a lot more potent than the 49ers offense, So with them having Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Alex Smith, they're going to get near the red zone, and their defense can cause them turnovers. I like Kareem Hunt's upside today. And as we know, well, I don't know if you guys know, but Andy Reid is 16-2 when he comes off 5 weeks. So he's probably going to game plan and know that, Kareem Hunt has been struggling in the last 3 weeks or so. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but they're going to use more usage. Maybe they're going to make new plays for him, because usually when a coach is, they go on bye week, they change a lot of things that they've been struggling lately. And hopefully Kareem Hunt gets that, gets it going again, because we saw how great he was when he first started out the year.
Definitely. I'm going to take offense to you saying that the Chiefs have a more powerful offense than the 49ers, man. You're not buying the Beathard to Marquise Goodwin. That's a deadly combination right there.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to give a shout out right now, though. I'm going to give a big, big shout out to Marquise Goodwin. This guy he's the man, because he lost his newborn kid hours before the game. I think it was what, Jeff, 4 hours before the game or something
4 hours, that. Yep.
And this guy still played football on Sunday. And honestly, I don't know what I would have done in my life, but football would be the last thing in my mind. But he went out there, he scored a touchdown, a big touchdown, I might add, that really made a lot of people happy. And, they went out there and got the win. That's all that matters, but really, I think that game is more about him than the win, because that's very special, and that's why I love sports sometimes.
I agree 100%. Yeah, that was tough, man. I heard that story. That came out after the game, I believe. I don't think that was even announced before the game, and I was like, damn, that's some crazy stuff right there. I don't know how I would react to that. All right, let's go over to DraftKings here and look at running backs, Tim. These top guys, basically the same guy I just mentioned. Any of them more appealing on DraftKings than they are on FanDuel?
No, as Gerson mentioned, he's the fourth highest priced running back on DraftKings. But in my opinion, he is my favorite top end play. It's Kareem Hunt. Not only, like you said, are they heavy favorites, but there is projected to be approximately 20-mile-an-hour winds during that game. Some people say they could get it to as much as 30 miles an hour. Some rain in there as well. So in that type of a game plan, I absolutely want the running back. So I love Kareem Hunt. He's my favorite top-end play. Another guy I really like up there is Melvin Gordon at home. As I mentioned, Buffalo, and as you did too, is going to be starting Peterman this week. So at home, I think that they're going to pound a lot of Melvin Gordon. And then the other guy at the top end that I really like, I guess he's priced up with everybody else, is Alvin Kamara. He's probably my kind of gut pick on the slate over Mark Ingram. I love Mark Ingram. Obviously, the Saints running attack has just been special the last few weeks. It's always kind of hard to figure out which one of those two guys is going to be the top guy on the slate. But this week, I'm going to go with Kamara over Ingram.
All right. Let's go back and look at some of these mid-tier guys now. We got Chris Thompson that you had mentioned earlier, Tim. We've got Jay Ajayi, which we don't really know what his role is yet in Philly. Jordan Howard, Adrian Peterson, Lamar Miller. Any of these mid-tier guys here, Gerson, interest you?
Tim mentioned him already. I really like Melvin Gordon a lot this week. Melvin Gordon, this guy is going to scare a lot of people off because of what happened last week where he, Austin Eckler, whatever his name is, stole a lot of his touches. But Buffalo ranked 31st overall in DVOA versus the run. And the reason of that reason is now because they lost Marcel Darius. They didn't lose him. Buffalo just traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a piece of candy and a sticker. So as soon as that happened, within the last couple of weeks, the Buffalo Bills run defense been getting murdered. I think I have a stat right here that let's see, I get it right here. Okay. They've given up 146 yards rushing per game and an additional 51 yards on 7 catches per game to opposing running back. And, well, we saw what Mark Ingram and them did last week. They just ran it down their throat, and they would no mercy. And the Chargers are going to do the same thing. I love the Melvin Gordon call that Tim mentioned. And the other mid-tier guy that I'm looking at, and since we're talking FanDuel, Jay Ajayi, he's on the main slate. So Jay Ajayi versus the Cowboys with no Sean Lee. I think he's an excellent play at 6,900, and I would have quite a bit of exposure to him because you go from the Miami Dolphins offensive line to the Eagles offensive line. I mean, he got 5 carries the last game. He still got 71 yards, 8 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown on 9.6 average. He can have a huge game against the Dallas Cowboys. So I like Jay Ajayi at 6,900 because no Sean Lee. I can tell you this: that Cowboys defense sucks. It's like Tim knows it too because he knows Cowboys fans. They cry when Sean Lee's out because they know their defense is going to be horrible.
Yeah, they must be crying a lot because it seems like every year he goes down.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, let's go look at some of these guys over on DraftKings here. Some of the same guys we mentioned: Chris Thompson, Adrian Peterson, Jordan Howard, Lamar Miller. Of course, Jamal Williams is kind of getting a little bit cheaper down there, but he's supposed to be getting a big workload this week with 2 injuries in the Green Bay backfield. What do you think of these guys down here? Tim, you there? Looks like we may have lost Tim. All right, so Gerson, what do you think about these plays on DraftKings here?
Oh, cool. We can go to DraftKings. I had everything set up for DraftKings, so I'm excited now. Okay. On DraftKings, the number one play value per dollar is Chris Thompson. I'm gonna have so much Chris Thompson. It's gonna be I'm gonna be calling you, Jeff, to go give a high five to Chris Thompson in Washington and go to the game. So. Chris Thompson is kind of hard to play on FanDuel, though, so don't try it. I mean, you can, but it's kind of hard. But what's his name? Rob Kelly went out. Thompson is averaging 24.3 PPR points per game. And Washington being a 7.5 underdog, I think this is a PPR monster game for Chris Thompson. I can actually see Chris Thompson probably getting 30 points. That's his ceiling. I mean, I think his floor is 20 points.
Nice.
So I'm pretty big on Chris Thompson at 5,400. And I mean, I don't know if we're going to get Tim back on, but I don't want to steal his thunder because I know he likes this guy.
Tim, are you back?
No, I'm huge on Chris Thompson this week. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and take it from here, Tim. Who else you like down here in this mid-tier now that you're back on the phone?
Yeah, that was really weird. But yes, it just automatically reconnected. I don't know exactly what constitutes the mid-tier, but another play that I kind of like in that range, since I mentioned earlier I love both of the Tampa Bay and Miami games, is Kenyon Drake. He's just really kind of showed out the last couple of weeks. He's at 4,800 at home against terrible Tampa Bay. So, yeah, he's right there. And then for just 100 less, of course, James White, the highest projected total on the slate, the highest overall over-under on the slate. You want as much exposure to New England and Oakland, I think, as you can get, and specifically New England. So, yeah, if I like Kenyon Drake, I got to like James White as well.
All right, good deal.
But I think I'll have much more Chris Thompson than either one of those two guys.
Yeah, I can't believe he's as cheap as he is on DraftKings. It's just, I don't know. I'd lock him in for sure. All right, let's go look at some of these. Go ahead, Gerson. What you got?
One more guy.
Yep.
I have to mention this guy because the whole industry is on him, so we have to be on him too. Rex Burkhead at 3,600. I want to say.
Yeah, that was going to be my value guy.
Are we going to value or are we going to receiver, Jeff?
No, we can go to value. We do value running backs. Go ahead and talk about them.
Okay. Yeah, Rex Burkhead is 3,600 on DraftKings, 5,700 on FanDuel. Now on FanDuel, again, it's kind of hard to put him in, but if you want to get sneaky with like a Tom Brady stack with him and just like, do other wide receivers we're going to talk about later on rather than Brandon Cook and all those guys, he gets receptions. And last week, I don't know if you guys watched the Sunday night game, but he was everywhere. He was catching balls. He was running the ball. He was on special teams. This guy's everywhere. And it looks like he's going to be a pretty big feature on their offense. They're a road favorite. I mean, obviously they're playing in Mexico. If nobody knows, but it's in Mexico, 29.5 over point total, almost 30.75 total. And the Raiders, one thing I know they suck at is defending the pass defense versus running back. Now, if you guys remember who the last pass, well, any running back actually, but a running back like him, kind of like Chris Thompson. And when Chris Thompson played on Sunday Night Football versus the Raiders, he tore them up. And so I really like Rex Burkhead at that price, and I know the industry is going to be on him. I mean, the Raiders ranked 30th overall on DVOA versus the pass running back.
All right, good deal. Anybody else you want to mention, Tim?
Yeah. First of all, I agree with Gerson. I think every week there are certain plays that you have to decide whether or not you want to be on. And this week, one of those guys is absolutely Rex Burkhead. If he smashes and you don't have him, it's going to be tough to cash, especially in cash games. So I definitely would want some exposure to him. But I can absolutely understand if you wanted to pivot to another guy like in that range for 600 more is Dion Lewis. As Gerson said, they're a heavy favorite on the road. Their line opened at a 5.5. They're now 7-point favorites. They've been training in Colorado so that they could stay at elevation. So I really, if you like everybody else in that game, you got to have some Dion Lewis. So I do like him a little bit less than Rex Burkhead. And then the other guy in that range that I like is Joe Mixon. I usually don't like road running backs, especially ones that have two-down kind of roles that he does. But now that Jeremy Hill is out, he's not competing for early down touches, and he still does get work in the pass game. So, I think that he could be an interesting play down at 4K. So if I was going to pay down at running back, those are kind of the three guys I like.
All right, good deal. Tim, knowing that you're a Packers fan, you got any interest in Jamal Williams, who looks like he might be the running back this week?
He is, yeah. Aaron Jones is out, and Ty Montgomery is doubtful, but I doubt he's going to play. So it's going to be the Jamal Williams show. But I have no interest, even at home. John Harbaugh tears apart bad quarterbacks, so I fully expect that they're going to take the running game away and try and make Brett Hundley beat them. He may have been able to do it against Chicago, but he's not going to be able to do it against the Ravens. As much as it hurts me to say, the only two plays I like in that game are not on the Packers side. So one of them is the Ravens defense. So I'll just go ahead and put that out there. I do not want any Packer exposure. It breaks my heart to say, but I want no Packer exposure this week.
Yeah, it breaks your heart to say. I've been saying that for my team for 2 years now.
Man, I've been playing Carlos Hyde every week, or almost every week. So at least you got him to go to every week.
This is true.
Yeah. So to add to Rex Burkhead, Chris Hogan is out, and Danny Amendola is only playing like 50% of the snap. And so I think Gillisley, if he's a healthy scratch, that's going to tell me that Burkhead's going to get another big load this week. I mean, and you guys, people got to realize that a big load for a New England Patriots running back is like 50% mark, 50% split.
Yep.
So
yes,
just throwing that in. But I like what's his name? I like how Tim said that Joe Mixon, because usually I swear all year I've been playing Joe Mixon whenever I think he's in a good spot. Tim is like the first person to say no, won't play Joe Mixon. And now I'm like hearing this, so now I gotta like rethink my process, and I'm probably gonna have to play Joe Mixon.
So Tim's kind of the Joe Mixon whisperer right there. He kind of knows what's gonna go on with Joe Mixon.
Something.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break here, and when we come back, we'll talk wide receivers.
Do you need advice for your fantasy football team? How about your DraftKings or FanDuel lineup? GoingFor2.com has you covered. GoingFor2.com has exclusive content from some of the best fantasy writers in the industry, whose credentials include Bleacher Report, Fantasy Pros, and Fantasy Life. From advice columns to player ranks, GoingFor2.com has it all. Sign up for our newsletter to have all of our content sent to your inbox. Start winning today. Visit GoingFor2.com, because no one remembers the extra point.
Get up, let's get down.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and jump into wide receivers now. We'll start over on FanDuel with wide receivers. Some of these top guys here. The top guy in the slate is Michael Thompson. And then we've got, Michael Thomas, not Thompson. Michael Thomas. Yeah. Sorry, it's 11:45 or 11:40 over here on the East Coast, so I'm getting a little tired now. But yeah, Michael Thomas at the top. We got Mike Evans on here. We got AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Adam Thielen actually makes a little appearance in this top level here. Which of these guys do you like, Gerson?
Okay. Tim already knows who my top play is, and I'm pretty sure Tim thinks I'm crazy. And so everybody else in this podcast is going to think I'm crazy, and whoever listens to it, you're going to think I'm crazy. Jeffrey's going to think I'm crazy, but my number one play this week is DeAndre Hopkins.
All right.
The reason why I like DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's facing Patrick Peterson, and they already said that Patrick Peterson will shadow DeAndre Hopkins. But one thing I learned about DeAndre Hopkins, that he gets so much volume that it overshadows his price deficiency, his price difference. So right now he's 6,100, and if I can get DeAndre Hopkins to get 12 targets at 6,100, I'm going to play him in a lot of my lineup. And I know this is crazy, but we got to look at some things about DeAndre Hopkins. This guy, he goes against the best cornerback. In week 1, he went against Jacksonville. While 15 points is not a lot, you guys got to remember, week 1, who was the starting quarterback?
Tom Savage.
Okay. His current quarterback is Savage, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they played the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, we all know the Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the best defense cornerback tandem probably that we've seen in the last 10 years or so, with A.J. Boyce and what's his name?
Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, that UFC fighter, you know? So, I mean, if he got 15 points against Jalen Ramsey, and then we're going to get him at 6,100, I honestly can see DeAndre Hopkins getting 20 to 17 points. Now, it's a bold call, but I see his ownership is going to be low, and I've seen Savage just force it into him. Now, I think he's a play on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's a little bit harder to fit him in because he's 7,700. But I'm still going to take that gamble because if I can get him at, you're probably going to get him at 5 to 10% ownership. If I can get him at that ownership and he gets a touchdown and 80 yards, I'm going to be moving up. That's my number one player of the week, and it's just ballsy and crazy, but I'm going with him, and I've been on him all week, and I'm going to stick with it. All right.
That's the Gerson sick call of the week right there. All right.
Hey, wait. I want to give a shout-out to myself. The last time we had a podcast, I made a pretty good sick call of the week. Do you remember who it was, Jeff?
The New Orleans Saints defense, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, what's up? It only took like 5 weeks later, but I just wanted to get my credit when it's due.
Yeah, you made that call, and you definitely came through on that one because they actually looked good since that point, actually. All right, let's go over to DraftKings here. The top guys we got over here: Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, Thielen, Tyreek Hill, AJ Green. Who do you like over here on DraftKings, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. The top end of wide receiver is really tough this week, so I don't disagree at all with Gerson saying that you're better off with a top play in the mid range, especially points per dollar. I think that Mike Evans at 7,900 is just too much. As much as I love that game for me to play him, I do like Mike Thomas, but I think my favorite play on the top end is going to be AJ Green. I almost never play players against the Denver Broncos defense, especially on the road, and it's Andy Dalton. But like I said, the top end of wide receivers is kind of a mess this week, and I think that AJ Green is one of those players that can go into that environment with the volume he gets and still turn out a good game. For $100 less, I also really like Fitzgerald. As Gerson mentioned earlier, Blaine Gabbert is starting, but Bruce Arians came out and said we're gonna run our game plan. We're gonna throw the ball up and down the field. We're going to run our offense. So Fitzpatrick is going to get plenty of run. Fitzgerald is going to get plenty of run. As he said, the way to beat Houston is through the pass. So if you're going to pay up for one of those top end guys, I think for me it's either going to be Green or Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I like Fitzgerald as well. Actually, Blaine Gabbert actually outplayed Drew Stanton in the preseason. So if preseason holds true into the regular season, he may actually be a better fit for this offense than Stanton was. So. And Fitzgerald had a pretty good game with Stanton last week, so if he can do the same with Blaine Gabbert this week, he's definitely a good call. All right, let's go over to the mid-tier on FanDuel here. We've got Crabtree, Stephon Diggs, Dez Bryant, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, and then Fitzgerald kind of falls in that mid-tier on FanDuel. Who do you like in the mid-tier, Gerson?
So... when we're talking mid-tier, this is where all the gold, wide receiver plays start. I mean, it's incredible because, we talked about this, me and Tim, and, I don't know if you were hearing, Jeff, but this week you can really go so many different ways, like we said, and I think the best way to go this week, and it's going to be the chalk, it's going to be that New England and Oakland Raiders game. So I like Brandon Cook. And I like Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. And those are three receivers in that price range. 1 second, I have it right here. FanDuel. I didn't have my FanDuel pricing. Sorry, Jeff. Okay. So Amari Cooper is 7,300. Michael Crabtree is 7,500. And Brandon Cook is 7,700. And all those three players, I think, is going to be a pretty heavy ownership. If I were to pick one of my favorites out of these three, I'm going to go Brandon Cook. Because Brandon Cook versus the Oakland Raiders, who ranked, they're the worst, I believe. They're ranked 30th overall in DVOA. And we know one thing, the Raiders get burned by speedy wide receiver. If they're really fast and whatnot, I mean, Tyreek Hill killed them. And I can't remember other wide receivers that killed them. But anybody that's fast, I know they killed them. It's just me being a Raiders fan, I know that if you're a fast wide receiver on the outside, you're going to have a good day against us. And I think Brandon Cook's going to have a really good day. And I wouldn't be amazed if he gets that. Everybody knows that Brandon Cook has that monster 1 week where he gets like 131 yards and like probably 2 touchdowns or something. I would not be shocked if he gets 150 yards and 2 touchdowns because the Raiders are just awful. And in Mexico City, the altitude is different. So that defense is going to be gassed. And the field conditions in another country, I don't think it's as good as the ones that we have over here because they usually play soccer over there. They play football, not football. So, yeah. So I like Brandon Cook. I like Michael Crafter, and I like Amari Cooper.
All right. To quote Gerson, the Raiders just suck.
I know. I've been saying that a lot.
All right, let's go look at some plays over here on FanDuel. Who you like in the mid tier over here, Tim? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I said FanDuel. I meant DraftKings.
Yeah, one thing that kind of a trend that we've seen on DraftKings the last couple of weeks is that the top overall scoring wide receivers have come from the mid-range. So I wouldn't be shocked if somebody at the top ended up being the number 1 guy. But we're going to see a guy in here that's not number 1, number 2, number 3. And I think 2 of the top candidates to be the overall number 1 receiver on the slate, Gerson mentioned. It's DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cook. They're both in excellent spots this week. They're both priced in the mid-range. You can get them at $6,600 and $6,000 respectively. And they have good floors and just excellent ceilings. So I think those are both excellent plays. I also completely agree on the Oakland side. The Patriots, again, one of the worst DVO teams against the pass. So if you want to go Crabtree, you want to go Cooper, I definitely don't disagree with either one of those plays as well. And then another guy I want to mention that might be a little bit more off the radar is Keenan Allen. You get the opportunity to get him at 5,900 in this game. Since we know that Phillip Rivers is going to play, I think that you're going to be able to get him at lower ownership than you're going to get at any of the other 4 guys I just mentioned. So if you're looking for that GPP play in the mid-range that could be number 2, number 3 wide receiver on the slate at a low ownership, that guy for me is Keenan Allen.
Yeah, and his price tag right now is as cheap as it's been pretty much all season long. So, and he's getting 7, 8, 9 targets a game. So definitely a good pick there for Keenan Allen. All right, let's go. Go ahead.
Can I mention a couple other guys?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I just need to mention 2 more guys. Actually, Golden Tate against Chicago. Golden Tate has been getting targeted so heavy lately. 7, 9, 8, 7, 8, and he's actually converting a lot of high catches in that 6 reception, 7 reception, 7 reception, 7 reception. And Matthew Stafford right now, they don't have a running game, so they're just throwing the ball a whole lot. So I like him versus Chicago. And then one player I like, and I can't wait to see it because I know I'm going to see it on Sunday. I'm playing Tyreek Hill versus the Giants. I mean, he's going to be matched up with Eli Apple. And we all know how bad Eli Apple is. He is horrible. I can't tell you. I mean, no offense to Marquise Goodwin. I don't think he burned him, but it was someone else that burned him in that game. But Eli Apple or Janoris Jenkins, they're both just bad. They're really bad right now. And the Giants' defense is ranked against wide receiver 1s. I believe they're ranked 20. Where are they?
Mine says 16.
15, yeah, okay. So overall, just the matchup, if he gets matched up versus Eli Apple, we know he's going to throw up that peace sign and say, peace out, dude, I'm out. I just love Tyreek Hill with that upside, and that's what's so weird. I can't believe we're actually talking about, Alex Smith as a starting quarterback for, GPPs or catch game. I mean, we haven't talked about him, and, I've never, ever considered Alex Smith a catch game quarterback my whole life, so that shows you how much this offense has changed. And Tyreek Hill, if he gets that 1 touchdown, I mean, we all saw it against the Cowboys. Holy crap, that was the craziest play that was the craziest play I ever seen. Did you guys think it was crazy? I thought there was a flag or something, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
He just went. So I can see him throwing that peace sign, peace out, New York Giants. You guys suck. Go fire Bob McAdoo. Touchdown.
Yeah, I like both of those plays a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be some weather in New York, so I would definitely, or New Jersey, I guess. So keep an eye on that for sure. But Tyreek Hill always has a chance of taking multiple long ones to the house. So you always want to have some exposure to that guy. Like Gerson mentioned, they line him up all over the field, on the left, in the slot, on the right. So he's going to get advantageous matchups. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. So yeah, you definitely want exposure to Hill and to Tate going into this weekend.
All right, let's talk some value now. Any value guys y'all want to talk about? Gerson, we'll start on your side. Anybody that's super cheap you want to talk about on either FanDuel or DraftKings?
So my favorite play, value per dollar this week, and while he's not like amazingly cheap, like 5,400 or like 4,500. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a play, but I don't want to play him on FanDuel because it's different. I'm pretty sure Tim is going to cover him, but there's two guys I like. Sterling Shepard versus the Kansas City Chiefs at 6,500. Sterling Shepard the last 2 weeks got targeted 9 times, 13 times, and last week he had the most receptions for 142 yards. And we know one thing for sure. If there's no Sterling Shepard or Evan Engram on the Giants offense, yeah, there's no offense. But Kansas City, what's their name? Kansas City is going to score a lot of points. So the Giants are going to have to score and throw the ball and throw the ball and throw the ball. And if you can get me Sterling Shepard at 6,500 and he gets me 80 yards and like 8 receptions, well, I know on FanDuel it's a little different, but because it's a half-point PPR, I still like his price at 6,500. And then I also like Jeremy Maclin at 6,000 versus the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers allow the most points versus wide receivers, the most fantasy points, the most receiving yard, and the most touchdowns versus wide receiver. So I like Jeremy Maclin at 6,000. And I think that's as low as I'll go because there's a guy that Tim's probably going to talk about on DraftKings that I wouldn't play on FanDuel, but he is minimum price on FanDuel too.
There's one guy I just wanted to mention on FanDuel that I was kind of looking at, and I'll get your opinion on it. With the Redskins' depleted receiving core, what do you think of Josh Doctson at 5,200 down there?
For me, I'm not. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, for me, I don't really like Doctson. The one of the value receivers I was going to get to here in a minute was actually Jamison Crowder. He's probably my favorite value receiver on the week in terms of just how much I trust the ability for him to score. Doctson, I think, is going to see a lot of Lattimore, and you got to admit, he's a real candidate right now for defensive rookie of the year. I mean, he is just absolutely morphed that Saints defense. And I think that they really they understand Doctson's role in that offense right now, how much he means to that offense right now. And so I think that they're going to do everything they can to take him away. So for that reason, and also because of the low price, I think that I'm going to have much more exposure to Jamison Crowder than I am going to have to Josh Doctson. So in that game, that's the play that I like, especially on DraftKings. And then, of course, the play that Gerson alluded to, which is going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate, I believe, is Bruce Ellington, the wide receiver for the Houston Texans. It's not a name that you're familiar with. He's kind of stepped up for them as their number 2 wide receiver in that offense. As Gerson mentioned earlier, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be shadowed by Patrick Peterson, which means that Bruce Ellington gets the always advantageous matchup against the number 2 wide receiver of the Cardinals, which right now is old man Tramon Williams. So at stone minimum 3,000, you can't kind of pass him up on the radar. Him, Burkhead, those are going to be probably the 2 highest owned value plays on the slate, and you definitely want some exposure.
Definitely. And just to back up your Crowder call, over the last 2 weeks, he's got, the 2 weeks that he's played, so week 10 and week 8, He's got 24 targets in 2 weeks, so definitely getting the volume now, especially now that there's no receivers there that Kirk Cousins has worked with long enough to really know. I think Crowder's definitely a good call there. He's at 43 on DraftKings, so good call. Anybody else you wanted to mention, Gerson?
You know what? I'll be honest. I didn't know if Jamison Crowder was hurt or what, or like, because so many players on what's the name, the Washington Redskins offense, like been hurt. Like their whole offensive line, their wide receivers, their tight end, and so he was my top value, like his cheapest dollar on FanDuel. He's 5,400. So I love that play that Tim called. It looked like he's healthy. I guess I just missed out on that, but I love him at 5,400. I would play him quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, like Tim said, Ellington on DraftKings is a great play. But like we talk about it, you don't really necessarily have to put Ellington in because this week you don't have to pay up for a Le'Veon Bell at 9,300 at like 9,700 or an Antonio Brown at 9,300 or I don't know, what's the highest priced quarterback? An Aaron Rodgers at 8,500 or something like that. I mean, the highest priced quarterback we have is Tom Brady at 8,600 on FanDuel, and I think he's totally worth it. But on DraftKings, you don't really got to pay up for you don't got to pay down for wide receivers. I mean, Ellington's a great play, but if you don't want exposure to him and just put Burkhead in the flex, in the flex, if you're going to be, I have more confidence in Burkhead than I do with Ellington. I'll just put it that way.
I agree, 100%.
All right. Ready to go on a tight end now?
Hey, just to touch on something real quick that Gerson mentioned about the Redskins injuries, as I'm sure many people are aware of. It looks like their offensive linemen are all going to play. They were all at least limited participants a couple days in practice. And as Gerson also alluded to, Crowder did pop up on the injury report, but it was not injury related. He got the typical veteran Wednesday and then a full practice on Thursday. So he should be fully good to go.
I think there is one player on the offensive line that's not going to play. I think their center actually is going to miss this game. If I'm not mistaken, on the Redskins side. You can check.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Spencer Long. You're right. Spencer Long is out.
So he may not be as important as the guards and the tackles, but still a pretty good piece to their offensive line. All right.
No, you're right.
Let's move on to tight end now. Of course, we got Gronkowski at the top. We got Zach Ertz coming off a bye week. Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram, Jared Cook. Who do you like at the top on FanDuel, Gerson?
I like the play that everybody else likes. It's going to be Travis Kelce.
Gotta have him, right?
Dude, when you have a guy named George Kittle, or what's his name, Kittle?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kittle.
Yeah. No.
Selleck was the one last week.
When you have a guy like Garrett Selleck score a touchdown on you at minimum price, and nobody I wanted to play him. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys wanted to play him.
Oh, I played him.
Because we're pretty. Oh, I know you played him. You're a 49ers fan. You play those 49er players. I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like, when you have they've allowed a touchdown for the last, a touchdown every week this year, and they still allowed touchdowns going past last year, too. I mean, Kelce is going to eat, and he's going to get that, I wouldn't be amazed if Kelce is the highest scoring overall tight end / wide receiver player of the week. I would not be amazed.
Agreed.
That's how high I am on Kelce. I think Kelce is the smash play. He will be owned at least, I'd say 35 to 40%. And in GPPs on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, I would say he has to at least be 60 to 70% because you don't have that flex spot, and everybody's going to want to play Kelce.
I agree 100%. I mean, like you said, the Giants have given up a touchdown to a tight end in literally every game this year, including that one to Selleck you were just talking about. That's a ridiculous stat to even think about. And I think last week I called it out too in one of my articles that that they had give up a touchdown every week to tight ends. I said play Selleck. He was low owned, but I was happy to play him, and he turned out well for me on my lineup. So Definitely Travis Kelce is the top play there. What about on DraftKings? Is anybody else that you like on DraftKings, Tim, that's not named Travis Kelce?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's definitely the top play, I think. But neck and neck right there with him is Gronk, man. I mean, if you, like I said, number one overall point total on the slate, you want as much exposure to that game as possible. It is very possible, like Gerson said, that Kelsey's going to be the number one overall pass catcher. And I think Gronk's right on that list as well. Oakland is not as bad against the tight end, but they're not great against the tight end by any means. And you know that guy is a game break, waiting to happen. So I think right there at the top, we always advocate on DraftKings that 2 tight ends is a legitimate strategy. As Gerson said this week, there's as much value as you want to be able to construct the lineup the way that you want this week. And so if you're telling me that you're confident the 2 highest pass catchers on the week are going to be Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski, absolutely double tight end it all day long and make all the money.
All right.
Yep.
All right, now that we've pretty much anointed Travis Kelce the MVP of this week, is there anybody else on this tight end list, Gerson, that you're looking for? Anybody we're paying down for?
No, just play Kelce.
Just play
Move
Kelce. All right, sounds good. What about you, Tim?
No, I'm just kidding. Since we're talking on FanDuel, the primetime game has Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz is a good play against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys rank among the worst against tight end. I mean, with no Sean Lee, that defense is going to struggle really bad. And I think he's not going to get a lot of high ownership because due to the fact that, one, he was hurt against the last game that he was listed on.
He had a bye week.
Yeah. And that Travis Kelce, you're going to have so much ownership, and Rob Gronkowski too. But I think if you want to pivot from those 2 guys, while Zach Ertz is 8,000, I would not be shocked if Zach Ertz can match up with them. And that's the thing that I love about this FanDuel slate, that you have 3 tight ends that are like high tier price, and all 3 of them can get touchdown and reception because they're all in great matchup. But I like Zach Ertz, and then Evan Engram. I'm gonna keep playing him, dude. This guy is playing like a wide receiver. He's not playing like a tight end. He gets targeted so much by Eli Manning. I mean, Eli Manning, that's his security blanket. I mean, the guy has 12 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, and he's gotten a touchdown in the last 4 games. So that shows how much Evan Engram gets relied on. But I'm pretty much playing those guys. But those are, like I said, Kelsey's going to have so much ownership. How can you not play him?
Yeah.
All right. Is there anybody else on the tight end side on DraftKings, Tim, you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, there's 2 guys real quick, but I did want to make a point is that, as he mentioned, Sean Lee's going to be out. There's also a good possibility that Tyron Smith might be out, the left tackle for the Cowboys. As we saw last week, they were just absolutely miserable on offense and defense. And if that ends up becoming the case in this Philadelphia game, which I think is very well possible, it's going to be tough. I don't think that they're just going to go out there and just throw the ball all over. So I think that there is some merit to, looking at Zach Ertz as a pivot play, but it's not somebody I would want a lot of exposure to because I don't know how much they're really going to have to run up the score in that game. So that's that. The other 2 guys that I liked were Hunter Henry. Again, like I said, I like the Chargers this week at home. They're not great against Buffalo. Isn't against the tight end, and he's always looking for him in the red zone. At 3,500, he doesn't need much to meet value. And then the other guy, another spot where we like to target tight ends, is against Denver, as you saw last week. Even Trey Burton was able to score a touchdown against them. So I think that an option here is Tyler Kroft at 2,900. He's not going to be very high owned. Like you said, most of the ownership are going to be on the higher end guys. He, again, doesn't need much to meet value. And if you wanted to put Kelce in your flex, then an option for you at the tight end position is going to be Tyler Kroft.
All right. All good calls. All right. Let's, we don't do kickers. So let's get a kicker on FanDuel. Let's go straight to defense. I'm just going to ask you, Gerson, just to give me your top 3 defenses, regardless of price, since they're all pretty much close anyway. Give me your top 3 defenses.
My top 3 defense are pretty, well, I mean, everybody's going to have them. I mean, it's going to be the Jaguars, Kansas City, and Baltimore Ravens. Those are my top 3 defense.
All right. Any sneaky defenses this week that you like?
Yeah. The Denver Broncos. Nobody's going to want to play the Denver Broncos, but I would not be shocked if the Denver Broncos come out and get motivated after they got demolished last week. And they're pretty. I mean, I don't see nobody playing them, but I'm going to have to expose them because that's a defense that, they've struggled over the last couple of years, but if they, the last couple of weeks, or actually the whole season, basically. But, I don't believe this defense is this bad. I mean, they played some really great offense. New England, Philadelphia, Kansas City. Now, well, I won't say the Chargers are great, but yeah. Oakland is a pretty good offense, too. Dallas is a pretty good offense. I mean, they've just been exposed, but I don't think this defense is that bad. And I mean, on DraftKings, I think they're a better play, but on FanDuel at 4,800, if you can get them low ownership. And Jaguars aren't cheap. So, yeah.
All right. I got 2 defenses that you didn't call out for FanDuel. One of them is really sneaky and very cheap, so it could pan out and might not. But the one I like that you can't play on DraftKings is only on FanDuel is the Philadelphia Eagles. Going up against Dallas Cowboys. I think the Eagles have the number 1 run defense in the league, so it's basically going to force Dak Prescott to throw the ball. As we already mentioned before, they can't protect Dak Prescott. He's going to be under pressure all night long. I think the Eagles are tied for 10th with sacks on the year. They're tied for 3rd in interceptions, so this could be like a turnover sack fest for the Philadelphia Eagles against Dallas. If they can't run the ball, they're going to be up Schitt's Creek, basically. And then the other one I got is going down deep down here is the Chargers, the aforementioned Chargers. The Buffalo Bills are starting a rookie quarterback. His first start is going to be on the road, going to the Chargers. The Chargers defense coming into the season was supposed to be pretty good. They've had a lot of injuries, as the Chargers typically do. But they still got some good players on that team. And I think going up against a rookie quarterback, I think they can be in a good spot. They're pretty cheap there on FanDuel as well. What about on DraftKings, Tim? Anybody on DraftKings that we didn't already talk about?
You mentioned most of my plays, but the low-end defense that I think kind of a dart, if you will, is the Rams. They're only 2,400, and they're one of the highest-scoring defenses consistently week in and week out. They don't need much for them to hit value, and they get a good amount of pressure on the quarterback. I don't expect Keenum to throw a lot of picks, but I think that they could get a couple sacks. Maybe they could get a turnover. And at 2,400, I think that value is just awesome. So yeah, I think they're definitely in play for me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Along with everybody else.
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of crazy that they're so cheap on DraftKings. I mean, they're like one of the cheapest defenses, and they're averaging double-digit fantasy points per year or per game. So I don't know how that actually happens, but. My three highest exposure defenses on the week are going to be at the high end, the Jaguars, in the mid range, as you mentioned, the Chargers, and then in the low end, the Rams. All right, good deal. All right, that pretty much wraps it up. Go ahead, Gerson. What are you going to say?
So, like I said from the beginning of the podcast, I was more ready for DraftKings prices. But like Jeff mentioned, if you're going to play on FanDuel, I think the Eagles and the Jaguars are pretty much up there. And the Eagles are a great, great, phenomenal play because without Tyron Smith and no Ezekiel Elliott, that defense is going to tear them up. I mean, Dak Prescott is good. Like, don't get me wrong, but that defense is going to put a lot of pressure on him. And no Tyron Smith. I don't know what Jerry Jones is smoking, saying that, we're going to adjust and we'll be okay. But yeah, they're not going to be okay. They're going to be an ugly game for Dallas this weekend. And if I was anybody, I would fade Dallas and just play Philadelphia players. But I love that call, Jeff, on the Eagles.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Tim, before we head out here?
No, man, I think we killed it.
All right, guys. Once again, you can find Gerson and Tim, both part of the DFS Roundtable on Facebook. Just search DFS Roundtable. They'll show up. join the group. Lots of good discussions in there. Lots of good fantasy advice. Of course, I'm also part of there as well. You can find most of my content posted there for goingfor2.com. That pretty much wraps up tonight, guys. I want to thank you once again for coming on. Hopefully, it won't be another 5 weeks before we have another podcast. Definitely want to get you both back on, hopefully for week 12.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
For having me.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk to you.
Go Pack.